Here we go. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Independent Podcast. I'm here with Jim Kelly Markham from the Save Our Lamps in Kensington. Welcome, Jim, and thank you for being part of my podcast.
No problem. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Jim, if before we get into what's going on here in Kensington with the lamps, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, how long you've lived here in Kensington or in San Diego, what brought you to Kensington? If you can delve into that and just take a few minutes to talk about that.
Okay. Well, ultimately my wife and I moved to San Diego in 1977. We lived in Mission Hills for 20 plus years, and then Bankers Hill, and then eventually we found our way to Kensington, and we moved here in 2018. We restored a 1926 Richard Requa designed home. I'm a preservation architect. My wife is a preservation planner, and so we're very familiar with preservation issues.
Awesome. And can you tell me a little bit about, I'm familiar with what's going on with the lamps here in Kensington, but a lot of folks aren't. Can you give me a brief synopsis of what's going on with the lamps in Kensington right now?
Well, as many Kensington residents know, and probably other places in the city realize as well, that not all the streetlights work like they should. Some of them don't turn on at all. Some of them stay on 24/7. And the city hasn't been painting them or maintaining them. In the early mid-aughts, the community got together and organized a Kensington Maintenance Assessment District, otherwise known as a KMAD. That group basically was organized and collected signatures for the assessment of each property owner in Kensington in 5 sub-districts that would be billed on their taxes every year for the maintenance of streetlights. Well, it turns out they collected money for half a decade and haven't spent a penny of what they've collected on maintenance. They've just been bankrolling it. So part of the problem is that this is a historic neighborhood. When the streetlights were put in way back, they were put in with a style of wiring similar to the style of wiring that maybe your older listeners are familiar with. The old Christmas tree lights. One light bulb goes out, the whole string light goes out. And so is obviously old. The wires, the one wire that looped from street light to street light and a conduit underground oftentimes rusts out. So there's some parts of like Alder Loop where there are street lights, but they really don't work. Whole banks of them don't work. And so the city's goal is to put in new wiring and a new underground conduit, this time a 3-wire combo that would basically allow individual lights when they malfunction to not trigger the whole circuit to malfunction. Right. Also, this new wire will be at a lower voltage instead of the like 5,000 volts of the old style, which was quite dangerous. They're going to be doing it now with a low voltage. So there's really 2 components of the project that the city has proposed. One is putting in the new wiring underground. Nobody's got a problem with that, except for the construction noise and the whatever that we've experienced with that. It's going pretty smoothly. The other part, the critical part that concerns many people in the community, we've collected over 1,000 signatures on our Save Our Lamps petition that sends individual emails to the mayor and the council president expressing the concern that why can't we save our lamps? Why can't we restore them? So they've come up with a program pretty much in private since 2017 that they intended to destroy these streetlights, but they didn't tell anybody. They kind of kept it below the radar. They crafted documents that purported to give people notice of, for example, in the environmental review required by the California Environmental Quality Act, For example, they described the project as underground wiring new street lights. It didn't mention the word demolition. So in the end, in 2018, a public notice went out, and somebody, if they were paying attention, wouldn't know that they were going to demolish historic streetlights. So in the end, they've been a little bit fishy about how they've organized this. And in 2018, the community planning groups, the KMAD, as well as the Kensington Talmadge Planning Group, joined together and sent communication to the city saying, we've caught wind that you're talking about demolishing our streetlights. This is 2018. Can you use some of the money that we've been collecting in our assessments to mail out a flyer to everybody involved and to get community input on this subject? Well, guess what? The city didn't do it. They quietly background preparing detailed plans, and by the time they revealed those plans to a small group of people in the community that really never were designated to speak for the community, at that point, they were already 40 or 50% the way through their drawings. Now, as an architect, I'm quite familiar with the preparation of drawings. And if somebody said to me, I'm going to be building a new house, draw me drawings for a new house, and I get 40% the way through my drawings, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, well, wait, I think it would be better to restore that house.
Right.
Then all those drawings, all that effort in the trash can. So the momentum was flowing, and then it was too late. So it was when it was early enough to have an influence on the process, they ignored us. And then when they revealed their hand and said, here's what we're doing officially, it was too late. Many people in the community, including myself and my wife, didn't hear boo about any of this until early October of last year, when a construction notice was sent out to the houses affected by what's called the Circuit 2 improvement, which is underway right now. In the end, that's about 56 poles in Kensington Heights, essentially south of Bedford, north of Hilldale. And basically, the notice said, we're going to be starting construction in a couple of weeks. If you have any questions, call us. So in the end, I called them and said, what are you doing? I've heard about this. I've lived here since 2018. I could have known about it, but nobody told me about it. So in the end, it was, I got the too late story. And also, well, we have to deal with these poles because they're hazardous waste. Think about that for a second. The city is storing streetlights on the street, functioning streetlights, and they're calling them hazardous waste. Well, it turns out somewhere along the line, the city used lead-based paint, which was common 30 years ago for high durability. So in the end, they threw out, well, there's lead paint on it, so we have to bundle them up and send them to the hazardous waste dump. And we're going, well, wait, can't you deal with it lead paint in place? Oh, no, the dust might settle someplace else, and, there's a big concern. Well, it turns out that's a bunch of hooey. It's the beginning of a series of excuses offered by the city as to why they had to do what they wanted to do in the first place. It's like they came up with a decision, we're going to destroy these streetlights. And then they started to develop a series of serious sounding, but totally bogus reasons why lead paint was one. The other one was, well, gee, if we put in, the mayor wants to have LED lights. And so they claim that the decorative light fixture that they have selected, which looks roughly similar if you're driving down the street, checking your text messages and glance to your left and see a street light, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But the bottom line is, it is different, it is cheaper, it's an imitation. And so in the end, they've said that these streetlights that they're proposing, the lamps up on top, they have a special heat dissipating shield that basically blocks out the top 8 translucent panes of the original streetlight design and makes it solid metal. And they're saying that also benefits the dark sky policy. We'll break that down into parts. One is the LED. They're saying that it needs that heat dissipating shield, and that's the only way that we can make these streetlights comply with the mayor's goal of LED streetlights. So I looked into it. It sounded official. It sounded real. But then you look into it, and it turns out that the light bulbs that are in there are light bulbs that basically screw in. And it turns out that you can buy a LED light bulb. It's a light fixture that screws in as well. It has the same warranty as the one the city selected. You can get a 7-year warranty for one, and a 7-year warranty comes with a one for the city's offering. So it has the same warranty. To replace it in the future in 7 years, you unscrew it and put in a new one, and you can buy that fixture, the screw-in fixture, from probably half a dozen or more companies, and probably will be cheaper 7 years from now, just the way things go. Whereas the version, they can only buy it from one manufacturer if they're still in business, the people who made this fixture. So in the end, it's like, okay, so there's another story that doesn't make any sense. Dark sky policy. First of all, we're not in a dark sky neighborhood in the sense that we can't have light shining up. Look at all the glass globes in other parts of Kensington that have, it's called an acorn glass. It sometimes is polycarbonate, but in the end, light comes out the top, the side, all the way around. So that, again, that's a little bogus. And then also the screw-in bulbs that the screw-in LED fixtures they can get. One of them has the ability to be adjusted with an iPhone app and basically dim the light adjoining some house, so it's not shining in a particular house. And also, these fixtures are designed that 85% of the light that is generated is pushed down. So again, this particular fixture has a fully compliant dark sky policy, even if we were in the dark sky area. So in the end, they come up with these things that sound like a big issue, but you pick them apart one by one, and there's no there. So the concern of the community is, well, listen, if you've been working on this project for this amount of time, you didn't involve the community, and then they, but wait, we did involve the community. We have the best they've been able to come up with is email from early December 2022 from one member of one of the groups who says, I support moving ahead with the undergrounding or the circuit upgrade. A demolition, whatever. But hang on a second. December 2022, they were already under construction. So the city's touting, we got community approval. Well, you got community approval. No, you got one person in the community to write you one email after you're already under construction. You never had that community meeting way back in 2018 when we asked for it. And you never have there's never been a vote of the Kensington Maintenance Assessment District or the Kensington Talmadge Planning Group to approve the demolition of the streetlights. So they've got a lot. They don't have anything to hang their hat on, yet they keep circling back to these arguments. Like another argument they keep on bringing up is, well, we need to put in new streetlights because we want to put in a streetlight that will be able to be maintained within the city budgets in the future. But then we pull back and say, but hang on a second. In Kensington, we have a maintenance and assessment district to pay for that sort of thing. We all live in older houses in this part of the city, and we know older structures take a little more maintenance. So in the end, we've, as a community, assessed ourselves. So this is a sort of circular process of arguments with the city. Each time we knock down one, they go to the next one. and then the next one, and the next one. And by the time we've done the loop, they go back to the first one,
Right.
and we let paint issue again.
Right.
So it's like they have no intention on changing.
Yeah.
So the community got together. My wife and I, Kathleen and I, decided that we had to do something. We talked about filing a lawsuit. We hired an attorney to write a letter to the city identifying the significant defect in their environmental document review process associated with that. Didn't mention the word demolition.
Yeah.
We retained Susan Brandt Hawley, who is one of the preeminent CEQA attorneys in the state of California, and she identified this defect and said it's serious. The city just ignored it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, and never really responded to that issue at all. Just kind of said, well, we're moving ahead. And so the community is figuring out, well, what can we do? Lawsuits are difficult. Lawsuits are expensive. So Kathleen and I organized a media campaign. The media campaign, Digital Impact, and put this media campaign together at our direction. But they did a wonderful job reaching out what's called a multi-touch program. This program reached out to people via text, emails, US mail, to all of Kensington. And in the end, that's what's generated these signatures on the petitions and getting to the politicians. So the bottom line is that began to shake the city. They said, well, let's have a meeting. And this is the meeting that you went to, where the city set up, well, we're going to have an informational meeting and send out a mailer to a select small group of Kensington residents. Well, in the media campaign, we took that information and said, okay, well, let's invite all of the people who signed our petition.
Yeah.
At that point, we had over 900. So we said, well, let's send it to them. Let's send it to the people, the email list. So we got people at the meeting. We ended up getting 2 TV stations to film this meeting. The crowd was not happy. The crowd was expressive of, well, why are you having this meeting if you're not going to listen to us?
Right. That's
the bottom line. So the city intended to have this meeting and check another box and said, yes, we had a community meeting. 5 years too late.
Right.
So the bottom line is, hang on, you can't fool us. And the public was not fooled. And the politicians began to feel the heat. They sent their underlings, as they usually do, who didn't say anything or commit to anything to benefit what the community was interested in. So the bottom line is that got the city all riled up. And the city finally agreed to have a meeting with the head of the KMAD and the planning group. And at that meeting, the city said, for the next phase of this, they are going to, before starting the demolition train, they're going to hire somebody to independently inspect each light fixture and determine, can it be restored? And it turns out that it very likely will be restored for half the price of the new decorative fixture they're proposing.
Wow.
So that's for the future, and that's great. But we're saying that's not enough.
Right.
For circuit number 2 upgrade, where they're proposing 56 streetlights being sent off to the dump, of which probably 35 or so are truly historic streetlights, we're saying, come and inspect those. Yeah. Because they've put in the new foundation, they put in the new wiring. All they have to do is instead of taking the store-bought fixture off the truck, basically mitigate the lead paint on the old fixture, deal with any structural issues it has on the inside, and put it on the new foundation. Yeah. And that can save the city money, and they can take those streetlights that the decorative streetlights they purchased, and in Kensington Park South, there are no streetlights. So maybe they can use those in that part of Kensington to be cohesive and develop a theme with the rest of Kensington.
Yeah.
So it's been a long story, but I believe we're beginning to make progress. The city was backtracking a little bit yesterday or day before, thinking, well, hang on a second, so we need to continue the pressure. We need to get the politicians to tell the city engineers, stop this demolition train. And that's the only way this is going to stop. Because if we're just left to the engineers, they have their marching orders, they're following their rule book. and they think they've done all the things they're supposed to do. So nothing's going to change unless the council president and mayor tell them to do so.
Right. And it just made, what made it angry to me was that we have these planning committees that are designed for these kind of issues so they don't arise. And they just totally bypassed it.
Yes.
And they could have took full advantage. And what bothered me the most too is the fact, whatever the residents decide in Kensington, what's best, what they want, that should be the main goal, and it should be the job of our elected officials to say, hey, what is it that you guys want? Okay, you guys want whatever it might be, and that's our job to go out and do it, as opposed to, I even think, the Sean, I think he even lives in Kensington, should already know what the residents in this area want.
But Sean Ella Rivera,
mm-hmm.
as our representative and also as council president, has publicly stated that they had community meetings, and yet we had told his staff, and they knew that those were lies propagated by the people in the city. But he was so eager to just make this go away.
Yeah.
And we're saying we're not going away, and we're saying that 1,000 people who've signed our petition now are mobilized. And guess what? 1,000 people could mean the difference of whether the mayor or the council president win their reelection.
Yeah.
And so my point is, this is a political issue. They should be listening to us, finally listening to us, where they haven't up to date.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, do you know by any chance, I was curious if the contractor who was given the contract to demolish the lamps, do you know by any chance, are they donors to the mayor or city council member? Is that something?
That I'm not sure. I think basically HMS Construction is a straight up group of people who've done streetlight work. This is their bailiwick. And it turns out that HMS Construction restored poles in Talmadge. They restored poles in the Presidio Hills neighborhood of Mission Hills. And they used the streetlight restoration company specialist, Brian Moran, to do the work of the actual restoration. But that team did the Talmadge project and the Mission Hills project, and are perfectly competent. Basically, they're just following the orders. They're following. They won it on a competitive bid, and they're simply following the orders of what the city's done. Talking from people in the neighborhood who have talked to the actual crew and said, would it be that hard to take a restored pole and put it on the new foundation?
Yeah.
And they say it's a piece of cake. So in the end, they don't. I don't think they're the villain in this at all. To me, the villain is a stupid decision 5 years ago to demolish these streetlights without input, a series of stupid decisions to ignore community, and then a series of stupid nodding of head by our representatives who are buying the BS offered by city staff.
Yeah. One quick, I wanted to ask, what is essential to a neighborhood being historic? Why is that important to get that label?
Well, Historic Kensington has been working for a number of years, and probably 2 more years away from establishing a National Register Historic District for Kensington. The benefits of that is that it would encourage people to restore their houses. It would help maintain the character that is really unique. I mean, you drive around the city and there are neighborhoods that have a special character, and creating a historic district is a way of respecting that character and helping preserve it. It also enables people within that neighborhood to apply for what's called a Mills Act contract. That basically contract says that if you have a historic home of a certain level of designation of caliber, that then you can get a Mills Act contract, which essentially lowers your property taxes, and essentially that savings through the Mills Act is supposed to be spent on maintaining that older structure than
Right.
maintaining that community. So if they were to demolish the streetlights they're talking about demolishing, each streetlight, from what we understand, is a contributing feature to the potential historic district. So for each historic streetlight they destroy, it's like destroying a historic home because
Right.
it's a numbers game. We have to get over 66% of the structures within the boundaries of the district to be historic. So in the end, if they start destroying streetlights, which were identified in a mid-90s historic survey by the city of San Diego, saying that they were contributing features to the historic quality of Kensington. Essentially, if they demolish those, then the numbers games are not going to work, and not all of Kensington would qualify for historic designation. So it
Wow.
hurts the potential for historic designation, and it's something that the city just recently realized, in
Right.
part because their historic review that they had, one of those checklist of things that they claim they had, but they really didn't. Um,
Hmm.
Essentially, there never was a historic review. There never was a public input on this very question. So they were operating in a intelligence vacuum and making decisions about demolishing them without realizing that by demolishing the streetlights, they hurt the potential for all of Kensington to be a historic district.
Wow. That's good stuff to know. I mean, I feel like, I've only lived in Kensington for a year, and I love it here, but there's things like that I'm kind of unaware of, or, uneducated on. And you start to learn the importance of those things. Um, and Jim, I really want to say thank you for kind of being the face and the voice of this movement, because, if you probably didn't speak up, and I don't know if any of this would have actually took place if it wasn't for you and your wife.
Well, I
So,
think the media campaign tapped an energy that was there,
right. Yeah.
and and the support was there. It's just a matter of you know getting everybody out of their regular daily cycle and paying attention to this just for a moment or two and signing
Yeah.
that petition. So if people go to saveourlamps.org, find out about what we're doing, watch the cute little video on the website, sign the petition, stay involved, try and get the mayor and council president to change the direction of this demolition derby.
Yeah. Awesome. And Jim, if I can ask you a personal question, a lot of times there, people don't really take the initiative to improve their community, to do something about their community. What got you to a point to where you said, hey, I want to get involved. I actually want to do something. I want to spearhead this. Was there something involved in your life growing up, or that made you want to be this person? Because I'll be honest with you, 95% of the population doesn't do that. What is that makes you want to say, hey, I want to help. I'm going to contribute to my community, and do this here. What is that? Where does that come from?
Well, it came in part from studying architectural history at Berkeley, where I
Okay.
met my wife.
And by the way, my son graduated from Berkeley as well.
Okay.
So,
And basically, we've been involved in preservation battles for a long time. In the
Mhm.
in the late 70s in San Diego, Kathleen and I and Bruce Kimberling formed an organization called Save Our Git, or not what was it? Friends of Gil, to save the Clobber House, the Melville Clobber House at 6th and Redwood, designed by Irving Gill in 1906, I believe. One of his early transitional homes heading towards modernism, for which he became famous. And we got involved in trying to save that house. We became members of Soho. Kathleen ultimately became president of the Save Our Heritage organization. So we've been involved in these sort of battles for a long time. Hadn't planned on getting involved in this one, but it was
Yeah.
one of those things that's like, wait, how stupid can a city be? It's cheaper to restore it's
Yeah.
better for the community history. And it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. Well, perfect, Jim. I just want to say thank you for, coming on to the podcast here. And I'm going to obviously share this and let people know what's going on. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from all the other residents in Kensington. And, if there's anything we can do to help out, we would do that. And once again, just want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you. And basically, what I hope is that the council president and mayor see this. And so I'm gonna figure out a way to get the public to link to this particular interview and
Absolutely.
and help them understand the details of all this, because this has been a good dialogue. It's a good summary of what's been going on. So I really appreciate the opportunity. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jim. You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.